The San Jose Sharks are less than 2 weeks from drafting Macklin Celebrini. What are they actually getting? We do the Macklin Celebrini deep dive today.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL Network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today we are doing the Macklin Celebrini deep dive. So we did this last year with Will Smith when it seemed pretty obvious that the Sharks were going to take Will Smith about this time last year, about 10 days before the draft. We're going to look at Celebrini's numbers, going to dig into the analytics, going to read what these scouts say. And then last year I made the case why Will Smith was the right choice. This year we know it's going to be Macklin Celebrini. There's really no case against taking Macklin Celebrini. So we're going to look at kind of the importance of building around him, especially as him and Will Smith are going to be starting this journey together next season. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So Macklin Celebrini, he's good. Hashtag good. Episode over. No. So let's dig into what actually makes Celebrini good. Like you've heard this. He's good. He's good. Like the Sharks are getting a great player. Like what makes him good? So let's start by looking at the numbers for Celebrini. And it's a nice review. So Boston University NCAA this year, the 5'11" and 0.99. He's 6 feet, guys. 197 pounds. Played 38 games this year. 32 goals, 32 assists with 179 shots on goal. Of course, won the Hobey Baker for the best player in college hockey this year, and just turned 18 3-4 days ago, depending on when you listen to this, on June 13th. So he did this playing his entire freshman season as a 17-year-old kid, right? And put up these type of numbers. Like, that is the thing you have to keep in mind. Yes, Will Smith, one of the best freshman seasons we've ever seen. Will Smith, a full year older than Macklin Celebrini. And yet Smith's numbers were slightly better, but Boston College also had more talent on it, right? Not to say that like Boston University is, some talent poor school. Boston University, one of the best college programs out there. But, you look at Boston College, right? You have, famously like all the draft picks that they have between Connor Gauthier, of course, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault, Will Smith. Like there's a ton of talent on that team. But what Celebrini did this year, I think, again, that's why he won the Hobey Baker for being the best player in college hockey, because of one, the points he scored, and two, the defense. We'll get more into the defense here in a little bit. So where does he really kind of excel? On the elite prospects, they have on their draft guide, they have they do the tracking of like his transition and stuff like that by Mitchell Brown. There's nothing. The only the one area where like Celebrini was barely above average was slot pass success percentage. Everything else, he is one of the best players in college hockey at doing whatever you want. If you need him, creating space part, right? Space. They have a section called space creation where it's like boards to middle plays, where they track how many times he can get the puck in the middle, like from the boards, and then turn that into a play in the middle of the ice, or advantages created per 60, or off puck assist per 60, body. Like Celebrini is just whatever you need him to do. Celebrini can do that, creating the slot, like his passing, expected assist per, like first assist per 60. So him creating the goal, basically, he's way up there. Slot passes per 60. He generates a bajillion slot passes per 60. Just getting the pucks into getting the puck into dangerous places. He's good defensive plays. Like he's like whatever you need him to be. Like his overall, he's 100th. Offense 98%, transition 96, defense 98. That's what makes Celebrini so good, is whatever you need him to do, he's like, cool, man, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the best at it. Like that's what Celebrini does. Is you need him to drive, you need him to shoot the puck and get the, be a goal scorer. All right, I'll do that. You need him to play responsible two-way game. Cool, I'll do that. You need him to do the transition and get the puck out of the defensive zone into the offensive zone and start play. Cool, I'll do that. And he's just good. Just whenever he sets his mind to do something, he's just good at it. So Byron Bader has his, of course, his hockey prospecting, where he, kind of looks at the way players score and kind of compares that to other other players based off throughout history. Macklin Celebrini, 99th percentile to be a star for the way he kind of qualifies as a star. 0.7 career points per game as a forward. So basically right around 65, 70 points a season. I'm not going to do quick math, but anyway, Celebrini, that NHLer to a guy to play 200 games. Celebrini, like he has 99th percentile. Like Macklin Celebrini is going to be a star and most likely a superstar. Looking at his comps, Jack Hughes, pretty good. Austin Matthews, pretty good. Sidney Crosby, pretty good. Even his draft year comps, Mario Lemieux, Connor McDavid, John Tavares, Paul Kariya, like Celebrini is one. If we didn't have Bedard last year, who kind of course, took the generational talent, we'd be going crazy with how good Celebrini. I honestly think Celebrini maybe a little bit lost in the shadow compared, because we just had Bedard last year. I don't think we're talking about really how good he's going to be. And we'll get, especially when we get to what the scouts are saying here in a minute, about kind of Celebrini versus Bedard. But he's just like whatever you need him to be, he's going to do it for you. And that it's insane to think just like how high of a floor he has, and also compared with how high of a ceiling he has. Like he's going to step in the NHL and be one of the Sharks' best players from the get-go. So if you're kind of curious too, I also put up the Celebrini versus Smith one. So of course, Celebrini is 99 percentile star NHL. Star probabilities for Will Smith, 75 percentile. NHL probabilities for Will Smith, 87th percentile. Last year, with the scoring, what they do is they have a formula based on what type of league you're in. You kind of multiply it and divide it, etc. They have a formula. You pump in whatever you scored at that level, and it'll tell you how many points you would be expected to score in the NHL. Last year, Celebrini would have had his NHL E would have been expected 59 points, and then Will Smith would have scored 61 points if they had scored at the rate that they scored in college last year. And even looking at Will Smith's comps, Marco Rossi, Marian Hossa, like Will Smith's gonna this 1-2 pairing that the Sharks are going to have here is going to be ridiculous. So yeah, this is why you lose all those game, kids. Is for a chance to get a superstar like Macklin Celebrini, and the Sharks are getting a superstar in Macklin Celebrini. And the great thing is we don't have to worry about the intrigue. Like we've been so focused on 14 because we know what we're getting. We're at number 1, and it's just nice that Mike Greer and the Sharks have not shied away from this of just being like, yeah, we're taking Celebrini. The Sharks social media, everybody on it, they have not shied away from this. They've taken all the intrigue out of it. We're getting Macklin Celebrini. It's not worth. Now the big question is basically just what number is he going to wear at this point, so that way we can all order our jerseys. But so yeah, we're going to dig into what the scouts, what a lot of the public scouts are saying about Macklin Celebrini, and kind of how that links up to the numbers, and then we'll talk about why it's important for Mike Grier to be aggressive this offseason to try to put pieces around Celebrini. That way, again, you want to put him in the best possible position to succeed as soon as possible. That way, when Celebrini will be ready to start kind of carrying some of the young players as they start to enter. So we'll get to that here in just 1 minute. If you have life insurance on your to-do list, you need to check out Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. And they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance for Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. All right, so we looked at the numbers. What do the scouts say? So scoured a bunch of public scouts to get their kind of write-ups and everything about that. We'll start with the Elite Prospects Draft Guide, and so kind of pulling a chunk from their draft guide. Macklin Celebrini is special. There's no other way to put it. And every accomplishment and award he amassed along the way in this draft year only acted as constant reminders of it as much. With what we perhaps don't anticipate was everything Celebrini would build around those standout dimensions and route, becoming one of the most complete prospects we've ever scouted, because it was actually Celebrini's commitment to the defensive zone, which was never a shortcoming for posterity, that allowed him to take his game to the next level. Constant scanning and an innate sense of anticipation allowed him to register developing threats. Blistering speed is how he turned those reads into steals. When talent or sense failed, an unrelenting motor stepped up in its stead. Suddenly became the team's engine whenever he took the ice, and with time, his heightened volume of puck touches and role he assumed as the Terriers' primary neutral zone play driver forced him to be even more dynamic than he had previously been. Again, that the work in the defensive zone, right? Like we talk about players and like what they do offensively, and defenses for nerds go score points. But what sets Celebrini apart is because of what he's going to be able to do in the defensive zone. And there's going to be a learning curve, of course, going from the NCAA to college, to the NHL. But he's already on such a stable floor. It's not going to take him long. Like I have no doubt he's going to be an A+ defender in the defensive zone, in potential Selke type of player, where we're talking about him not only being awesome offensively, but one of those just shut down defensive forwards where he just smother plays and then takes that play and turns it into the offensive zone. And especially with the talent that the Sharks are amassing in the top 6 here, Celebrini shuts down a play and squeaks it out to Eklund, and Eklund gets it going the other way with, Quentin Musty on the other wing. Like, have fun with that, guys. Like, that is going to be freaking ridiculous. Our good friend, our bald king, Tony Ferrari of the Hockey Writers, writes, Celebrini's a dual threat offensive player who plays strong hockey in his own end. He is arguably the best shot in the draft class, is an excellent playmaker, and can constantly attack the middle of the ice. He's one of the few players in this class that truly elevates his teammates. He chains plays together as constantly by knowing what options A, B, and C are before he even gets the puck on a stick. He is a tactician who plays with a cerebral edge. The Sharks have been getting a lot of high IQ players in William Macklin, Bordelot, Will Smith, like just guys who think the game differently. What happens when you put all those guys together? They're just going to like Nightcrawler this thing and just see stuff before it happens. It just like Celebrini is like this is what we've been waiting for. Like we're gathering all these pieces, and Celebrini is just going to be the thing that just connects it all together and makes this whole thing go and puts everybody right in the correct slots. Right, William Macklin, who play driving winger who can create scoring chances for others, but how often do we see Eklund creating scoring chances and just not the right guy there? Or maybe the guy just doesn't read it right or just doesn't recognize what's happening right. What happens when you get a guy like Celebrini who's at the same hockey IQ and all those little plays that Eklund makes, and then he gets the puck to the front of the net, and Celebrini knows exactly where to be at the exact right time. It's going to be great. Chris Peters from Low Hockey writes, the most complete player in the draft. Celebrini is a high-producing forward who can take care of the defensive responsibilities of being a center as well as anyone. He's highly skilled and creative, owns a goal scorer shot, and has an elite hockey sense. Celebrini also has higher-end skating ability that allows him to separate from opponents and combines that with good quickness and agility to maximize his speed. Stephen Ellis of the Daily Faceoff. He's a tremendous two-way threat who can score, hit, defend, and bring the energy even late in a game. There's a reason he's dominated at every level and why some scouts consider him to be more well-rounded than Connor Bedard last year. Right, we talk about like what Bedard is on another level when it comes to like shooting and goal scoring, and like watching Bedard is a work of art sometimes, what he is able to produce. But Celebrini is coming in at a higher floor because of what he can do in his own end. So if you get like 150% of Bedard in the defensive zone and like 90% of Bedard in the offensive zone, seems pretty good to me. Yeah, like I'm so excited. I cannot wait for Celebrini. Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. Macklin Celebrini is a true power pivot with a top flight to a game, plus skating, plus shot, plus physicality, plus awareness. He has high-level physical traits and intelligence across the board. He's going to be a matchup headache and will transform the San Jose Sharks franchise fortunes. And then our own Hattie Kalakash, who also wrote this at Dauber. This might be controversial, but Celebrini is ready for top 6 NHL minutes. He has all the mental tools, energy, work ethic, compete level, anticipation, composure, awareness, clutch factor, and 3-zone engagement on top of translatable shooting, passing, handling, and skating. Even Connor Bedard didn't display the attention to detail that the youngest player in the NCAA this past season has shown in the draft year. There isn't much that Celebrini needs to improve, which further indicates why he's a future franchise center who's ready to make an immediate impact in San Jose. Like, I know there's people arguing like, he should go back to college. For what? Like, what? What is he going to go do in college? Like, put up a bajillion points? Maybe if he wants to. And if he wants to go back to college, cool. Like, if that's what he wants to do, but he's NHL ready, guys. And he's going to walk in and be one of the 3 best forwards right now on the Sharks. Like Granlund, Eklund, Celebrini, some order like that. Zetterlund in there too. And by the end of the year, he's going to be the best forward on the Sharks. Yeah, he's like, we are getting an absolute gift here, guys, in Macklin Celebrini. Like, yeah, I'm almost speechless, like just thinking about it at times of just what Celebrini is going to do to this franchise and how he's just going to make everybody better. And that's the important thing. Not only is he going to be good, he's going to make everyone better. And I think that's that true leadership that Celebrini brings, right? Is he's going to just make everyone better with the way he works, the way he just plays, I just think like that professionalism that we're seeing from he's 17-year-old kid just turned 18-years old. I have no doubt that he's NHL ready. Like just the way he just conducts his business, he's NHL ready. And yes, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs this season, going on to the worst team in the NHL. But if there's anybody who has the mental makeup for it and who's been around professional athletes his entire life, and two, just again, like kid who can handle the pressure, it's Macklin Celebrini. So we're going to talk about how important it is, why it's important for Mike Grier to continue to build around Celebrini for this year, to set up the franchise for future success. So we'll get to that here in just 1 minute. Summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can bet on everything from the Finals MVP. Maybe if you think the Mavs can keep this thing going for at least another game, or if you think it's Vamos Gatos in the NHL and they win it in 5, or if you want to head over to baseball and you can bet on who's going to hit one out of the park, they've got you covered. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so we know Will Smith, we know Celebrini. We know Will Smith's going to be here. We're expecting Celebrini to also be here with the Sharks. That's two under 18-year-old players, right? The Sharks, of course, last I checked, they were really bad last year. And why that was by design to be really bad. But the Sharks have done a good job of clearing their cap and setting themselves up for future success. And I think, though, you need to be somewhat aggressive this offseason. I've made this case before, and I'll continue to make this case, right? Especially with free agency right behind the draft here. You need to put Celebrini and Will Smith in the best possible position to succeed, because they aren't the only players coming. Like, yes, this is a big year having both Celebrini and Smith coming, but once they kind of go, then you look at next year, right? And you're probably going to have Quentin Musty on the roster in the 25-26 season. Luca Cagnoni is going to be entering the fray at some point. Casper Holtonen, some of Daniel Gut, like you're going to have some of these guys continue to grow and develop, and you want Celebrini and Smith to hit the ground running and be able to kind of take the training wheels off. That way you can take those training wheels and put them on somebody else, right? Does that make sense? As much as fun is it to be like, hey, this top 6 that we're potentially, building of Eklund and Celebrini and Quentin Musty, and Will Smith and Daniel Gushin or Casper Holtonen, or if they pick a forward at 14, like this sounds really fun and exciting, but there's still the development and how these guys get there. And once you get to the NHL, how do you respond and get your feet wet and get your feet under you and become an everyday NHL player? And that's a big step, is becoming that everyday NHL player. It's kind of that final step is playing, being that guy. And if you have 4 or 5 guys trying to all do it at the same time, it's impossible to develop, because they're all trying to develop at once. And I know people are going to argue, well, like just have Will Smith do it, or have, and then Celebrini do it next year. Having these 2 guys just kind of doing this now, that way the hope is they get through this, this year development, and then next year they get better, right? And then the year after that they continue to get better, and they get better and get better, et cetera, et cetera. But again, you're not having to kind of hide them or protect them, or kind of keep the training wheels off, and you can eventually focus. Your hope is You can get these guys ready to go and good to go faster. That way you can focus on maybe the guys who might need a little bit more development. How is Quentin Musty's tearing it up in the OHL, but how is this game going to translate in the NHL? And I think that going from that OHL eventually to the NHL, that's a big jump, right? And going from college to the NHL is also a big jump. But I think for the Sharks, getting these guys kind of ready to go be on their own, if that makes sense, be able to drive their own line, be able to help their teammates and help their line mates as soon as possible. It's going to make the development for the younger guys. And the best way to do that right now is to find guys who can help drive a line and help these guys here. So that's why I think the Sharks should be aggressive in adding a top 6 talent to the roster this offseason, right? You have Mikael Granlund, you have Eklund, you have Eklund's entering his second full season, right? But we'll just count Eklund right now. You have Zetterlund. Like, you're gonna have Smith and Celebrini. You need to have, I think, just another vet, and especially with all the questions around Logan Couture and what his future is just in hockey in general, and if he's ever going to, one, play hockey again, or two, ever be close to the guy that we've seen, especially his last full season where Couture was really great, right? One of the best years we've seen from Couture in a long time. And then we had this year where we saw 6 games from Couture. So finding guys who can help these young guys in Celebrini and Smith get up to speed as quick as possible is just going to make your development better. That way you can kind of just check that box off with Celebrini and check that box off with Will Smith and just say, yep, these guys are good to go now, and whether that's a year, 2 years, whatever. And I think Smith is going to need a little bit more time than Celebrini, if we're honest, just because I think, again, with Celebrini and how well-rounded he is, the way he plays in the defensive zone, the way whatever you need him to do, Celebrini is going to be able to do it. I don't think it's going to take as long for Celebrini to just kind of be a guy in the NHL here, where he's just going to, he's just going to be good. And then it's just, okay, now how does he go from being good to just a superstar? And that's going to be the progress we're tracking here. So, but having another legitimate top 6 guy on the roster who can drive play and make it life easier for a guy like Will Smith, or for a guy like Celebrini, or just kind of make life easier for everybody else in the top 6 is really important for the Sharks and for the development. And I don't with how much money the Sharks have in free agency and their lack of contracts that they're going to have to dole out for the next couple of seasons, I wouldn't mind if you overpay for a guy, if you know he's going to help these young guys and be a contributor right away, and help these young guys be contributors again, because the money doesn't matter right now. The only thing that matters is getting Celebrini and getting Will Smith to be NHL players and be competent NHL players as soon as possible, and let them guys grow and develop and become the superstars that we think that they're going to be. So Celebrini, though, that floor is insanely high. He's a plug and play player right now. And he's just going to, if the Sharks ever win the cup here in the next, 5 whatever years, we're going to look back at the 2023 draft class, and then this 2024 getting Macklin Celebrini as the foundation of where everything turned around for this franchise. So yeah, Celebrini's gonna be good, guys. It's this might be the best Sharks prospect since Patrick Marleau, and who knows, he might be better than Patrick Marleau. So Celebrini could be the best Sharks prospect ever. That's where we're at with him. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to, of course, break down Ryan Warsofsky's opening press conference. So I'm sure we'll hear from Warsofsky. I'm sure we'll hear from Mike Greer. So we'll kind of have reactions to that, and whatever kind of news that might start to kind of trickle out as we get close to the draft. Wednesday we have another draft profile or set of profiles. So we talk about 3 players there. We'll also this week should have 2 profile episodes, and then we'll probably do a Sharks prospect ranking pool, top 10 ranking here. So we'll get all that, a lot of good stuff here as we get ready for the draft, for free agency. So make sure you guys are following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You definitely want to do that as we get ready to go to Vegas, especially on Instagram, because I'll be posting a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff on Instagram. So make sure you guys are following along there. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.